Hi, I'm Robin Openshaw, and online they call me the Green Smoothie Girl. Recently I was asked what I do diet-wise about anxiety. Someone came to my lecture and said, I suffer with a lot of anxiety, what do you do? The reason I'm going to talk about this is because anxiety has been an issue for me really my whole life since I was a little girl. And I'm going to tell you the things that I think about when it comes to coping mechanisms, things to avoid, and things to try when it comes to anxiety. First of all, it probably bears saying that the medical model, the way they treat anxiety, is generally with an SSRI drug, which is a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So SSRI drugs are like Prozac and Zoloft are probably the two most well-known ones. And I want to say about this that I don't want to give any medical advice, and I certainly wouldn't want to tell someone don't take an SSRI because if you're dealing with panic attacks that are destroying your quality of life, if anxiety has just absolutely ruined your life, or if depression has, please by all means do what feels right to you in collaboration with a qualified practitioner. But let's talk for a minute about, let's say you don't want to use an SSRI, or the SSRIs aren't working, or you're worried about the toxicity of it and you don't want to try it just yet. I hope that people, wouldn't become suicidal or have their life destroyed rather than try one. I understand that for many they can be lifesavers. However, I just read a study this week that new evidence is emerging that people who are on SSRIs long term, it causes deep depression. Let's talk for a minute about things to try to avoid that are linked to anxiety. And anxiety and depression are sometimes two sides of the same coin. People who suffer with anxiety usually have a secondary, some depression, and vice versa is often the case. We're talking primarily about anxiety today. The thing is different remedies may, if you're targeting anxiety, it can actually make depression worse. Let me give you an example. Let's talk about things to try, and then we'll go to things to avoid if you're going to experiment with natural remedies. Kava, also known as kava kava, is an herb that's been used just forever because of its calming effect. It's often used for anxiety. However, people who have depression probably don't want to use kava, and people with liver problems probably don't want to use it. Passion flower is another herb that's helpful to many people with anxiety. Lavender can be very calming for people. You can take two different amino acids. One is L-theanine, that does not have a sedative effect, but it does have a calming anti-anxiety effect. L-theanine and L-tryptophan. And both of those can be obtained in a health food store, and they are often helpful to people suffering with anxiety. The problem with SSRIs is that for people who have the serotonin issue, that may actually be helpful, but sometimes anxiety can be caused by other things. And one of the things that I would wonder about if someone's talking to me about their anxiety is if they might have an adrenal fatigue issue. That or a hyperthyroid issue can be behind anxiety. So sometimes it's a biological problem. But if you feel like adrenal fatigue or adrenal stress, which is very, very common in the modern world because we eat so much sugar and we have so much stress, and all these can be really hard on our adrenal glands that help us with cortisol. We need lower levels of cortisol, and we can have a lot of anxiety when we are in adrenal fatigue. There are blends of herbs and natural substances, amino acids, that you can get for adrenal support. So that's another thing you can do. Let's talk for a minute about things to avoid if you want to deal with your anxiety in a natural way. One of them is, again, if hormone function is part of the problem, or you suspect it might be, you want to stay away from things that interrupt normal hormone function. And some of them that are really pervasive in our environment include BPA or phthalates in plastics. And so instead of drinking your water out of, plastic water bottles, there's phthalates and BPA and other chemicals that we don't even know yet. They're leaching into your water and you're drinking it. I sat on the plane next to a guy who worked at a bottling plant, a water bottling plant, and he said that everybody at the plant knew that a day after the water was bottled, don't drink the water. I don't know what happens after a day, but he said he actually was a consultant and he worked at a lot of different bottling plants, and he said all of them were the same. The employees knew, don't drink the water within 24 hours after it being bottled, because it would literally make them sick. And he said this is very, very well known at water bottling manufacturing facilities, which makes me wonder, if it makes you sick the first day, what happens to the chemical that's making people sick after that? It's still in there. So use glass jars to drink your water. Get clean water. Get a water ionizer, at least a reverse osmosis system, a distiller. Get clean water in some way, and don't have it be in plastics. So there are endocrine disruptors messing up your hormones in water and plastics. Tap water has chlorine and fluoride in it. And this is not the topic of this video, is what chlorine and what fluoride do to us, but the fluoride industry, which is really the petroleum industry, sold the dental industry on the idea that fluoride's going to prevent cavities. Well, what it is an endocrine disruptor, and it's really toxic. And chlorine, of course, is there to kill microbes, but it's an endocrine disruptor too. So again, drink clean water. You want to avoid soy products. Read labels and avoid stuff with processed soy. Soy isolates is something you really want to avoid. Soy is genetically modified, almost all of it. It's almost all highly processed, and it's very estrogenic, which means that it mimics estrogens in the human body, and it causes our hormone system to misfire. One more thing, this may go without saying, but meditation is a very important part of living a life that's not controlled by anxiety. Meditation is really trending right now. Everybody's getting into it. There are a lot of people out on the internet who have free meditations that you would really enjoy. I think it's a very important practice to spend 20 minutes a day doing a meditation. Some of the people I really like are Brendan Burchard has a meditation where his idea is, and this is very simple and anyone can do it, is he just sits there and breathes and says, release, release, release. I love that idea because it's channeling your brain, so you're not having chattery monkey brain, which is the whole point of meditation, is you're increasing that serotonin, you're calming, you're getting control of your mind, you're learning to control the chattery monkey that's always going in your mind if you don't meditate. I really like Vishen Lakhiani's 6-phase meditation that you can listen to on YouTube, and his Omvana app. I really like Bob Proctor's YouTube meditation. So give those a try, just sit in a quiet place and relax from head to toe. Do one of those exercises where you progressively relax each part of your body, clear your mind, listen to one of these beautiful meditations. That's a big part of controlling anxiety. If anxiety is a part of your life, I feel you. And anxiety has fueled a lot of my achievement in life, and I've been fascinated learning from a lot of sort of overachievers, CEOs, authors, people who do really hard things and put themselves out there in a big way. And I've had so many of them tell me that they feel fear on a regular basis. And I think that just learning to coexist with fear and anxiety is part of the solution, and learning to be at peace with it by saying, you are my friend, you are my fuel, you keep me moving forward. That only goes so far though, because if anxiety becomes crippling and it's getting in the way of you achieving your dreams, then I hope that you'll try some of these things, not as advice from me, but just to give you a start on your own research journey. If this episode is helpful to you, make sure you sign up for my free newsletter on greensmoothiegirl.com so I can continue to share with you things that I hope bless your life. I'm the Green Smoothie Girl. Till next time.